Now, it's time for the Anchormen Podcast with Matt Gates and Dan Ball.
Hey everybody, welcome in. Dan Ball here alongside Riley Lewis. Welcome in to another Anchormen Podcast. It's been a wild week this week in politics, in this country, in the world. Wars have increased, unfortunately, over in Eastern Europe. The war of words kicked off towards the end of the week between two titans, two billionaires. Craziness kicked off more on college campuses and whatnot. Courtrooms with ICE proceedings and deportations. It's been... It's a crazy time to be alive, Riley, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I'm weirdly grateful for it all.
Well, you're like, there's lots of content for talk shows and podcasts.
There is, and what a time to be in this field. I mean, wow, like really, it's a lot. And just to be an American, I don't know if the founders ever expected us to get to a place like this where we are right now.
Well, they were
life
pretty
moved
smart.
a lot slower back then.
You know what though? If you look at some of their writings and you look at the way they constructed everything we use today, when the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration, it all actually works pretty well and makes a lot of sense.
Well, and it's impressive.
If you don't try to reinterpret it
Yes.
or try to make it go your way, if you just read it and adhere to it and follow it, it makes a lot of sense.
It does, and the fact that the system they built has stood the test of time, to your point, is just, it's remarkable. And it's just, it gives a window into how brilliant and inspired those men were. I mean, truly.
And we always call them the old founding fathers. You know they weren't old, right?
Yeah.
Like who, the oldest one, was it Adams or something? I forget the age. I couldn't get it wrong.
Old, but Thomas Jefferson was like 27.
They were all in their 20s.
He was a graduate student. Yeah.
Franklin was maybe in his 30s, 40, but these were young men. They were very, very smart for the times especially.
And ambitious.
And they understood the importance of a constitutional republic, not democracy, because they'd already seen, even back 250 years ago, democracies had failed because you can't allow the mob to rule. And that's what liberals and the media don't get today. When they keep saying that, you know, this whole movement you and I are part of, this America First, this MAGA movement, that they think that we're the threat to democracy. Yes. We are. I agree with you. We are a threat to democracy because America is not a democracy, and you all on the left want it to be that way because you think you have the majority in the country. One, you don't. 51%, I firmly believe, 51% of this nation, especially 51% of the voting population, is not center left and definitely not crazy to the left. And so your whole mindset of a democracy, which is where mob rules, 51% can rule 49.
Completely.
One, we're not that. Two, the country's not there. This country is center-right, always has been, always will be. However, being a constitutional republic, thank goodness, you can't have 99% rule me.
Yeah.
That's why it's supposed to be everybody has a voice. That's why we get the freedom of speech, freedom of the press, right to assemble, peaceful assemble. That's how smart they were. I say all this, and we kick this whole thing off, as we always do, with a little warm-up to catch up before we get to our guest, because we wouldn't have a constitutional republic if it were not for what? The brave men and women who have donned uniforms for 250 years and have said and pledged with their hand on the Bible and their other hand in the air that I will protect this homeland, this beautiful constitutional republic, the United States of America, against all enemies, foreign, and these days, domestic, which we have a lot of.
Oh, certainly we do. And look, there's an obvious movement from the left to divide, to pit the American people against each other, because that's the quickest way to bring this republic down. They want to remake this place in their own communistic utopian image, and it's very frightening. And so I think part of what we're seeing this week is a very concerted effort to divide the American people, to pit us against each other, the rise in political violence, the rise in really violent rhetoric. Look at what they did to Trump on the campaign trail. They shot the guy in the face.
They
These
got
are
him shot
violent
more than
people.
well, and he would have been shot at more than once.
Yes.
Right? Because
Yes.
you got the Ryan Routh guy that was recruiting Ukrainian soldiers. He wanted to get a Ukrainian sniper. He was looking at trying to get rocket launchers and crap. You've got Iranian hit death squads that are probably still here that want Trump out. And then you have the 19, 20-year-old from Butler that acted all alone.
Right. Uh-huh. No one's believing that.
Allegedly.
Right. Yeah.
Who had offshore accounts and gets into a secure area with a sniper rifle. Anywho.
And there was still no accountability for the huge security failure that day. Just a slap on the
Right.
wrist for Kimberly. Right.
It was all Butler PD's fault and state troopers and wherever.
All the communications are gone. We can't go back and talk about it. Right. Okay. Yeah.
So you have all that. Again, keep going back to my point. Great, amazing, best country on the planet, but you don't stay free if you don't have people fighting to keep us free.
Yes.
You know, you had the Germans that wanted, well, not all Germans. You had Hitler, the Nazis, who obviously wanted world domination. The Japanese thought they'd jump in back then. You've had other commies over the decades try to influence and peddle. Now, of course, the biggest thing is China, and they can do it financially. They're doing it on our college campuses, kind of like the Middle East is doing it. Look how much money, right, the Muslim world puts into our higher education in this country to spew their garbage, and look at the crap you've got on college campuses. And no, I'm not throwing every 1 billion Muslims or whatever under the bus. I'm talking about the radical ones, which there are plenty of, that want what? Death to the West.
Yes.
They say it all the time. They want all the Jews gone and they want all of America gone. It's convert or else. I'm talking about them. So with all these threats, again, foreign and domestic, you need men and women. And yes, since this is called the Anchormen podcast, men, you need real men with massive, cojones.
Yes.
Muy grande. Huevos.
Well, and to think our fighting force, there's so many volunteers. People are where else do you see that on Earth?
Nowhere. We're a volunteer force. Come on.
See that on Earth? Nowhere else. So clearly what we have is very special and worth fighting for and worth protecting. And I would like to think that we could all see that regardless of your political differences on small stuff. America is the greatest political experiment in human civilization. And if this country falls, everything falls.
That's
the West,
the key.
human rights, it all goes out the window. So we have to fight like hell to protect what we have before it's gone. Because once it is, getting it back is just, it's a non-starter.
Oh, it'll never happen.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? So many powerful entities around the globe for decades have fought for the demise of the good old US of A. Think about it, because we are that shining city on the hill, right? That beacon of hope and light. There's a reason that somewhere between 12 and 18 million illegals poured in under the Biden-Harris regime, because they all wanted to get to America for different reasons.
Sure.
Some for the American dream, some to suckle off the American teat and blow our tax money, and some to do us harm.
Yes.
And right now, let me tell you, you heard the warning that Tom Homan put out, right? And Dan Bongino said it, I think, on Hannity this week. Homan said it on my show the other day. It's not if, guys. It's not if anymore. It's when. When are we going to have another terror attack? I won't say 9/11 style, because I don't think we're going to see it, come in the form of hijacked planes, because now we're on the lookout for that. But there's many other ways.
Well,
financial attack,
Sure.
A power grid attack, or just point up, guns, bombs, knives, planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah.
If you've got 15 million illegals, let's just say 100,000 of them hate us, Riley, hate America to the core. And 1,000 of them are from all Middle Eastern countries, so they have that all in common. Or 1,000 of them are all from China, because we know that Joe let in a few 100,000 militant-age single men from China.
Yes.
So let's just say it's one group. Think of the damage. 1,000 really angry, determined, American-hating from any of those regions I mentioned decided to one day attack us all at the same time.
Yes.
You don't think 1,000 people could do a hell of a lot of damage at a Super Bowl game?
Well, and the difference is what the founders dealt with was tyranny from an external force, from the British Empire. This was its own colony. We had our own population, our own culture. It's our own leaders who've been selling us out for
Yeah.
decades and decades, who've compromised this.
You've got Democrat leaders right now that are pushing hatred on America. Ilhan Omar
Sure.
and the squad, those ladies.
Absolutely.
Can we censure them? Can we kick their asses out of Congress? I'm so tired of hearing this anti-American rhetoric. This place was never great. You know, because Trump, of course, MAGA, make America great again. It was never great. We've never been great. What's so great about it? What's so great about it? You're a
Why don't you ask all the refugees that have come here from literally all over the world? Like, are you kidding me? I mean,
You're a frickin' immigrant who came to this country and then got elected by we the people. You get paid $179,000 to represent us, and you go to our capital, and then you bitch and moan about how horrible America is.
yeah.
Why are you even in office then?
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah. Well, they're in office to radically transform America. That's
you
what's
go.
going on. That's the real push right now. Is it's not just left, right, Republican, Democrat. It's those who really want to preserve what we had, what was built, and those who want to radically transform it from the ground up. And I think that they're facing a lot of pushback. That's what this election was about. Obama came in 5 minutes before he took office and said, "I will transform America." I think he's been very successful in doing that. This MAGA movement, the America First movement, this is the pendulum swinging back the other way.
Yes, it is.
Finally.
That's a great point. And you know what? That's got me thinking, Riley. Think about how when the Obama era began, right, in 08 and all through 16, how people on the left and centrists, some conservatives, the media fell in love with him. He was like the savior. Oh.
Saint Barack Obama
Saint
coming
Barack.
down from the heavens.
Right. And what did the country do? Forget the media, forget politicians. What did we, the people, do after 8 years of Obama the savior? What did we do? We rebuked that BS. We didn't go with a Republican. We didn't go with another John McCain, right?
No.
We didn't go with another George W. Bush. We didn't go with any legacy Republican people. And this again, this goes to my point I said 10 minutes ago, that this country center-right and conservative and Christian. It went, we're so sick and tired of not only Barack, but politicians, D.C., the swamp. We're going to elect a billionaire, wild man, playboy, business, real estate developer guy who busts balls on both sides, who could buy every politician in that town, who's not going to listen to anybody and do whatever I want. It's going to be huge. And we put Trump in. Think about that.
Completely.
8 years of Obama. We didn't go, oh no, that was too far to the left. Let's get us a W type and elect his brother. He was up back in 16, right? Let's get Jib in there. No, because to prove my point, Americans, the majority, said no. Then we get screwed in 20 on an election that was rigged. And what do we do in 24? We come back and show you once again, this country is conservative right.
Yes.
And we elect Trump a third time.
Yes. We needed a disruptor. Of all the things Trump is, being a disruptor to the status quo is exactly what we needed. The people who go after him, they say, oh, well, he's unhinged and uncontrollable. Wrong. He's just uncontrollable by the corrupt interests who've been selling us out for decades.
Great point.
And that's exactly why we put him back in the office.
Yeah. And I love that he says in tweets and X's and truths and whatever it's called, whatever he wants.
Yeah.
I know it upsets some
Communicate directly
people.
with your own citizens.
But you know what? It upsets so many people on the conservative side. They're like, he's the president. I wish he'd act more presidential. What does that even mean? You want him to act more like Barack Obama? You want him to act more like George W. Bush? Well, yeah, but they were refined and they didn't speak this way and they didn't make mean tweets. And yeah, they also screwed this country over big time. They lied to you and me about stuff.
Yep.
They took us into endless wars, both sides. Yes. They blew trillions of our dollars. Yes. They spied on us.
Completely.
They did all kinds of crap. And you're upset because he doesn't act presidential. Again, I will take this all back around to the beginning of this conversation so we can get to our amazing guest tonight. We wouldn't be able to sit here and piss and moan and complain about how things are being run if you didn't have brave men and women donning those uniforms and taking that oath and walking a fence line, standing a post and saying, whoever you are, commies in China, radical Muslims from Iran, Pakistan, you name it, whether you're there and we got to fight you, or you're now here thanks to Joe and Kamala and we got to fight you. This is why we have the country we have, because an all-volunteer force every year raises that hand and says, I will go in the defense of my nation, even if it costs me my life. And our guest tonight is one of those badasses.
Yeah.
You excited?
Well, very excited. And honored, by the way, truly. I just want this person, like you said, it's easy to take that kind of service for granted when you're not the one having to risk your life and make sacrifices. And that's why I don't like the warmongers in DC, the Lindsey Graham types who are just lobbying for war all the time, because they have no skin in the game.
Yeah.
So when you meet real heroes who put everything on the line, who put their money where their mouth is, it's humbling.
Yep.
And you have to recognize that and say, thank you. Thank you for that.
Well, I thought it was fitting to invite my buddy on, who I've jumped out of a plane with, who I've had on the show now for several years, who raised his right hand, who defended us, who, oh, by the way, reached one of the highest, hardest obtainable positions in any of our branches of military. And when I say that, I mean it. Like, this next guest tonight is a Navy SEAL. If any of you know anything about the military branches and what it takes, look, there's PJs in the Air Force where I was in, pararescuemen. PJs are special forces. You guys are badasses. Army's got your Rangers, your Green Beret. You are as well. Marine, you got Marine Recon. There's tons of special forces out there. But let's be real. Navy SEALs are typically considered the creme de la creme, right? We didn't send in some Air Force PJs, even though I'm an Air Force guy and I love my PJs, to kill Osama bin Laden. We send the SEALs. When you want something done, you send the SEALs. Not to mention they get trained, oh, by the way, a few minutes right here from where the OAN studios are based in San Diego, out on Coronado Island, where they have the Special Warfare Division of the Navy. So without further ado, because we're already 15 minutes in, let's bring on my buddy, Mike Sarraille, Navy SEAL officer and commander. And if I hopefully don't get it wrong, Mike used to be in charge of, because there's different numbers, he was the guy over at SEAL Team 1, but you were with, nope, different teams. Okay, see, I'm going to let Mike tell the story. He's like, no. See, and they get picky if you're wrong. Which teams were you on? Give me the numbers, and which ones were you in charge of, Mike? Welcome, by the way, brother. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Riley, Dan, happy to be here. So I started out in the Marine Corps, and I've got to take time to say that. I was a recon Marine, happened to become a scout sniper as well. Switched over to the SEAL team, served on the West Coast, and then was at SEAL Team 3, and then served on the East Coast at the SEAL teams over there as well. And did my 20, and then my time was up, and there was a younger, better generation coming behind me. So it was time to get out of the way.
SEAL Team 3. Okay, I had to get it right. By the way, we always hear about SEAL Team 6 with the Osama bin Laden thing. How many teams are there, and do the numbers go in order, or did I hear some rumor about you squids that years ago they skipped a couple numbers just to scare the bad guys?
There's truth behind that.
Okay, tell us that story.
Off the Russians. You've got the odd numbers on the West Coast, the even numbers on the East Coast.
Okay.
But, all extremely special. And hey, the Air Force PJs, the CCTs, the Green Berets, all the communities are great. If you had to put the dream team together, you'd select from all those communities and throw them together to create the dream team. So I don't have a bad thing to say about any of the special operations or combat arms communities throughout any service.
Oh, no, listen, and I wasn't either. You know that, Mike. It's kind of like the hype that everybody does with the SEALs, right? And if I didn't kiss up to a SEAL that was coming on, then I'd feel bad. But no, hey, special operators from all branches, if we didn't have them, we'd be in trouble because you need them. And they've come through in so many missions. You can go back and look. You've needed Army Airborne, because you need a whole bunch of guys that want to jump out of planes and go do something. You need those Marine recon and snipers to go in and take them out from hundreds and hundreds of yards away, if not 1,000. You need PJs, the Air Force guys that can jump out and get it done like the SEALs too. So all of our special operators are, in my opinion, the best of the best on the planet. I'm sure that the Brits say they got great MI6. I'm sure that the Japanese got their special operators, and China thinks they got theirs too. But when it comes to the best of the best, it's the United States military. And Mike, I wanted to have you on a couple reasons, right? We just had Memorial Day. Wars, unfortunately, seem to be heating up recently, even though Trump's been doing his best to try to stop them, especially with Ukraine and Russia. Now China flexing on Taiwan. In the Middle East, God knows what's going to happen there with Iran trying to get nukes. And so who better to have on than a guy who was also a commanding officer of troops, because that is a big burden, a big responsibility there when it comes to taking young men and women to war. So Mike, let's first start with your background. Tell folks where Mike Sarraille comes from and how you get to where you're at. You filled us in a little bit. I didn't know that you started in the Corps and you were Marine Recon and a sniper. I think you and I had this chat personally. That's what I was going to go in and do. And then I switched to combat journalism in the Air Force. Like literally the day I was going to sign up for the Corps, I switched my whole future because of a recruiter selling me I don't want to say a bill of goods, because look where I am today. I stayed with TV. Look what you're doing today. Obviously, you did the right thing. I did the right thing. But go back to the teenage Mike, little Mikey, and tell us how you became a SEAL.
So born and raised in the Bay Area, very short, unsuccessful stint in college. Met a fourth recon Marine who, is just that guy. You're like, dude, I want to be like that guy.
Yep.
And so, took some advice from him, enlisted in the Marine Corps, became a recon Marine. The Marines offered me a program to become an officer. This is prior to the GWAT in 9/11. Not much was going on at the time, and some Marines I highly respected say, hey, go get your education, come back as an officer, affect more change. So, while I was at college on the Marine Corps' dime, the war kicked off. I went to Marine OCS and made the decision to switch over to the SEALs, which is Department of the Navy, as is the Marine Corps, so it was a lateral transfer. And it was a good call because the Marines were not part of SOCOM at the time. In the global war on terror was a conflict just fit for special operations. Mm-hmm. Make no mistake about it. Special operations don't win wars; they shape them. But ultimately, the guys that win wars is infantry on the ground, and history has proven that.
Sure, numbers. Numbers.
Did my time on the West Coast with the SEAL teams. Did my time on the East Coast. Deployed a number of times. Was not a commanding officer and got out as a lieutenant commander, but I was a troop commander. Probably the one of the highest pinnacles of my life. Just getting to work with amazing men and women to my left and right who were often more intelligent, and higher performing than I was. But I just was fortunate to be the guy that they called the ground force commander, and make no mistake, shaped me who I am today.
Yeah. Smart people always put smart or smarter people around them, Mike.
Completely.
Yep.
If you'd asked my grade school teachers if that would have ever amounted to anything, they'd probably say no. In fact, but that's what the military does for our youth. I needed discipline. The Marine Corps definitely instilled that, taught me the principles of leadership, team building, culture building, and
Amen.
that now segued into a post-military career.
Nice. Let me ask a question real quick, and then Riley, I'll let you throw the next one at him, because this one will probably get me in a little trouble with your generation, Riley, the millennials and the Gen Zers. But you know what I'd like to see, Mike? I'd like to see 2 years mandatory for all 18-year-olds in America. They would learn, let them pick which branch, but if we made everybody go into the service for 2 years at 18 years old instead of college first, and learn some damn patriotism and hard work and like the things you just said, team building, right? God, honor, country, some of the basic principles you learned in the Corps and the Navy, I learned in the Air Force. I think we would have a better nation like yesterday if we made people go into the service first, especially, Mike, since, let's be real, college campuses these days is nothing more than a America-hating liberal breeding ground. So let me ask a veteran officer like yourself, would you support putting American youth into the military for 2 years or some sort of service? Make them go do a mission trip or work for the Peace Corps. Do something for 2 years.
So what you're referring to is a obligated service mandate, what they call conscription.
Like Israel
model.
does, right? If you're Israeli, you have to go serve 2 years?
In the IDF, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You do. So you're definitely onto something. And, General McChrystal's been promoting this or advocating for this for quite a long time. So, one, I think people have a better appreciation for the freedoms that we have. It gives them a different perspective as well. I mean, world travel does that. especially when you go to third world or war-torn countries, it opens your aperture to how good we have it here.
Yep.
Now, you look at PTSD rates amongst Israelis, they're much lower, and a lot of them have seen combat because almost the entire population is served. So even from a psychological standpoint,
Right.
it lowers the post-traumatic stress of doing what we did over there. But I think it instills the discipline. People understand what it means to work as a team, to be selfless.
Yeah.
Which we often lose within the American populace.
That's key, Mike. Listen, because today,
Yes.
let's be real, we've created a lot of selfish young people. I'm not saying folks 50 and older like myself and Mike aren't selfish too. Yes, there's people in our generation. But because of the me, the I, everything, I got an iPhone. Everything's about me. I got my own social media page, and it's about me. People have forgotten that serving others and doing something that's bigger than yourself. Let me tell you what, guys and gals watching this podcast, that's a lot more rewarding in life than I got 3,000 clicks and 274 comments today on my post. Yeah, let me tell you, Riley.
Well, I think the sort of the point you're both touching on, a generational difference, and this doesn't apply to all young people, by the way.
Of course not.
However, this sense of entitlement and the arrogance and just thinking that this is all just going to be here forever, nothing bad could happen to America, it's not worth fighting for, this could all go away tomorrow. Life is ephemeral, and we have to. Let me back up. What I'm saying is, if we're not willing to fight for this country, we could lose it. And if we're not willing to fight, then maybe we deserve to lose it. And I think there are a lot of people who just take what we have for granted, to your point, Mike, and they don't understand just how precious and special this place really is. And maybe if they did see how bad things are in war-torn Sudan or Somalia, then maybe they would get that perspective.
Yeah.
But there's also the practical element of having those skills that transfer to business, that transfer to political leadership. Some of the best people who are governing this country have served. Look at someone like George Washington as a great example. He's a large part of the reason we're here today. He went toe-to-toe with the British. After serving for them for 20 years, he led the revolution against them, and that's what made him the perfect president. He had real skin in the game, and he understood how hard it was to get this country off the ground.
Yeah.
So he governed it well, he valued his citizenry, he protected the republic. That was baked into the cake for him because he had real skin in the game. Now we have a lot of leaders, respectfully, in Washington who haven't done that, and they've run this country into the ground, and they don't seem to understand.
Oh, don't say respectfully. There's a whole bunch of them,
I know,
majority
I'm
of
just-
them
I'm
that are
not trying to-
self-serving pieces of anyway.
I just don't want to personally indict people. But the point
Oh, I
is,
will.
I think some of the. I don't think it's surprising when you look through history that some of the most effective and transformational leaders
Are veterans.
Are veterans.
Yes.
People who've served even on the front lines, like George Washington.
Businesses, Mike, you know this. Businesses, when they first see, and it's not just to get a tax credit or whatever, even though some do it for that reason, but a lot of businesses want to hire veterans because, to your point, what they just said and what Mike said, if you want an employee that's going to be disciplined, show up on time, do their damn job,
Yes.
are you going to hire a college dropout or are you going to hire a military vet? You're going to hire somebody like Mike,
Completely.
who's done what Mike's done in his career. If you're looking for maybe a chief operating officer of your company, I'm going to call a guy like Mike.
Yes.
Who has commanded troops, who got his degree through, who switched and went up the ladder from Marines to Navy to SEAL. I mean, come on, right, Mike?
So, it's funny you guys mentioned that. Look at World War II alone. That generation, the greatest generation, came home. They built the economy to what it is today. What's the common thread? They all had military service.
Boom.
They all principles, core values, leadership, again, teamwork. But let me push against you guys on this one, and this is a good one. So I put a lot of time into thinking this, and I named it the generation game. So I remember coming into the Marine Corps, we still had a few Vietnam-era Marines. You had the Panama Grenada, you had the first Gulf War, you had some of the Somalia guys who were my sniper instructors, and we got called some pretty awful things. And for the audience, it finally hit me when I was checking into the University of Texas for my final tour with the NROTC before I retired, and talking to the other instructors. They were making fun of the other generation, skinny jeans, safe spaces. And I wasn't really in the mood for it at the time because I had just freshly driven without stopping from Virginia Beach. And it dawned on me, I'm like, okay, this is the generation game. And so talking to a VA psychologist who actually did research on this, the Vietnam era veterans felt the shame or neglect or contempt from the World War II and Korean veterans. Each generation does it to the next generation. But let me say this. We've just seen the Army hit their recruiting quota for 2025 with like 4 months left.
You're going to my next questions. Keep going.
This generation is smarter, they're stronger, they're faster. There may be fewer, but I have no doubt that if a conflict on a world magnitude were to ignite, that we would have young men and women raising their right hand. And my nephew just graduated Navy boot camp. I won't tell you what he's going on to do, but he's going through it right now, and he's a stud. All 6 feet 2 inches of him. He just has this desire to serve his country. So,
Mike, I don't disagree with you. I'll push back a bit. I think the only reason we hit recruiting numbers now is because we also had a regime change, and now we have an administration with a real commander-in-chief who doesn't want to get us in endless wars and actually respects the military. And before, we had an auto pen. And we had no idea who was running the country. I think people thought we were on the brink of tons of wars, even though I know it still looks like that today. Trump at least is trying to de-escalate. You didn't see Biden trying to de-escalate. You didn't have a SecDef, I don't think, in Lloyd Austin, and a commander-in-chief that young 18, 17, 19-year-olds could look up to and want to join. So let's get into those recruiting numbers, because we got headline after headline. That's one of the main reasons I wanted you on this week, Mike, is because, as he just said, the Army exceeded recruiting goals, and it's only June. For the last 4 years, and last year especially, we couldn't meet recruiting goals under Biden. Matter of fact, the only branch that met recruiting goals last year, Mike, and you know which one, because their numbers are lower, plus, let's be real, Marines are always badasses, was the Marine Corps, because men want to be Marines. Not everybody goes, okay, I'm going to go in the Army, I'm going to go in the Navy. And their numbers are lower to get up to their numbers they need. So the Marine Corps was the only one that met goals in the last couple of years under Joe. Now, not just the Army, but it appears all branches are on track to meet goals, and it's only June. So again, what a difference a SecDef and a commander-in-chief make, because it's the same generation it was last year, but now they're signing up, Mike.
Yeah.
There is a fundamental truth. And I don't care if it pertains to the military or the private sector or the business world. People don't want to work for bad leaders.
There you go.
Yes, I was just going to
Leaders
say.
who are going to denigrate the U.S. And here's the thing. The administrations previous to Trump tried to enact social experiments on the military. I believe it was General Dunford, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, wrote an article about how the cultures between the civilian sector and the military are different. And they have to be that way for a reason.
Yes.
So when we look at why do I join, I'm going to tell you this. Rarely did I ever hear anyone say, I just joined to get a free college education. They wanted adventure. They had a sense of patriotism, of wanting to serve, something beyond themselves.
Yep.
But they weren't doing it for DEI. They were doing it to learn leadership, some skills. And the thing is, these young men and women want to be part of something. They want to be part of a tribe. I've never seen a culture where I sense such homecoming and belonging as the military. Not before the military, and especially not after.
Oh, totally agree.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I'm sorry, Google and all you Silicon Valley folks with your funky, cool little buildings, with your sleeping pods and your games and your lunch breaks and your 4-day work weeks, where everybody's like, we're so happy and productivity went up and we're chilling. No. I'll take you to a base, and you want to talk about camaraderie and brotherhood and sisterhood and hard-ass work and determination,
Yes.
work ethic, getting the job done 110%, going above and beyond, being able to adapt, improvise, overcome. That's the military. Sorry, Silicon Valley and big corporation. And I agree with you, Mike, 100%.
Yeah.
The cultures need to be separated. The military is no place, as SecDef Hegseth said the other day, it is no place for a social experiment. And as he said, so pardon my language, we're done with that shit. We don't need people in dresses. We don't need our warriors in classrooms every day learning about pronouns. We need you out there on your battleship, testing your war systems. We need you fighter pilots flying every day in close maneuvers ready for war. We need you guys repairing tank treads so when one gets blown up in battle on the field, you can fix it in a heartbeat under fire. We don't need you going, Oh, I'm sorry. Did I offend you because I didn't use the right pronoun? Are you transitioning currently? Can we pay for that with our tax dollars?
Well, I think the philosophical point there, Mike, I really want your thoughts on this too. One thing I hear from a lot of veterans is the sense of camaraderie and the sense of unity.
Amen.
Something we're sorely lacking in civil society in America today. Because when it comes to China, North Korea, Iran, Russia, they look at all Americans, regardless of party, the same way. We are the enemy in the eyes of the Taliban. That does not matter. And you need that unity in the forces. Whereas you have these concepts like DEI, CRT that are just inherently divisive. They're tearing this country apart.
They're racist. I'm sorry, but DEI is racist.
It is racist. And you can't, and when you're competing at that level and the stakes are that high, there's no room for anything that's going to break apart the unity or undermine.
Right. We don't have enough minority generals, so we're going to make more 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star generals from people of color because we don't have enough. No. Hold on. The military is merit-based, right, Mike? If you deserve it, and you busted your hump and you put in your 20, 25, 30, 35, you get it. You don't get it at 10, 12, 15 because you're a different color or gender.
Of course not.
But that's what they've been doing under the Biden regime and under Obama. And it has no place in the military, Mike.
But so, also, Mike, so when it does come to these kind of, let's just call it wokeness.
Yeah.
Do we see the pendulum swinging back the other way because under the previous administration, that was a major priority? I'm hoping that that's been deprioritized. I know Hegseth's been very clear. No more room for that crap. I just want to know if that's being embraced.
Yeah, is it happening? You still have all your contacts in the special operator field. What are you hearing from the guys still working it today, not from the mouthpieces on CNN, Fox, and the networks?
Well, guys, sorry, I wasn't listening. I was finishing up my application for Google. I didn't know they had sleep pods or 4-day work week.
They do. Have you not seen that crap?
It's very
I'm
real.
joking. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
They got
spoiled. Wokeness. Yeah, you're seeing the pendulum swing. I mean, we're seeing that by the recruiting numbers. We're seeing that by the morale. We're seeing that with a reprioritization on lethalities. But the thing about, you talk about wokeness and equality. The military is the most equal place I've ever met. You're all equally worthless in the eyes of the military.
Thank you. You're just a number, bro. Unless you're an officer like you. I was enlisted. Okay? The enlisted guys, we were just a number, Mike.
But, again, what people don't understand, and you got to understand, 99% of our population doesn't serve in the military. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. But unless you've been to war, it's like me going into investment banking. I'm not an investment banker. I wouldn't tell them how to lead or what their culture should look like because I just don't know. I haven't experienced it. I haven't spent time in their trenches. But the thing about the military is it is so highly professional. Some of the best leaders I ever worked for have come out of the military or are still in the military. And they conduct themselves with empathy, with respect, kindness, with professionalism. They do hold a standard. And, if we could somehow filter some of how the military runs their organizations into the business world, we would see another economic boom and we'd see the drive of people increase.
Yeah.
There was one other thing about one of those fundamental questions of why somebody joins is, do I have what it takes? Every single young man or woman says, do I have what it takes to become a Marine?
Yeah.
Or an Army soldier or an airman or a
lot of
sailor?
people want to be challenged when they're young. You're right, Mike. Yeah.
It provides that environment, but it's also the greatest environment for coaching and mentoring. When I fell, and I fell a lot in the military, and I made a lot of mistakes, there was always a mentor, and maybe they had some good fun with me at the moment, would always pick me up and help me figure out a way to learn how to do what I was trying to do or become a better human being and a better leader. And again, you don't find that in the private sector. That's what we're trying to create within my company. And hence why I'm the chief talent officer of Overwatch. And you guys did mention something. We're launching something tomorrow. And sorry for the shameless plug.
No. I was going to get to that anyway.
It's about veteran hiring. So Overwatch mission critical. We're in the data center space. We are a 37% veteran workforce. We are an SDV OSB. Wow. We have Anchors of Hope, which is a pledge launching tomorrow on June 6th which is what, gentlemen?
D-Day.
D-Day, the 81st anniversary. Yeah. Yep. This will run until November 11. We run this every year.
Till Veterans Day.
We want companies to contact us and join us on this expedition, I call it, to hire as many veterans as they can.
Great.
And change the paradigm of how we look at them. Guys, we are not a broken demographic.
No.
War breaks you in a sense, But guess what? You can't break what's already broken. We're unflappable. And they are a battle-proven, driven workforce demographic, and we need companies to contact us at weareoverwatch.com, join on board, and let's see if we can get 1,000 veterans hired over the next 158 days.
I love this push.
I've been doing that since I've gotten out. That's what I've focused on, is getting veterans into leadership positions into companies.
That's a great, you know what? And I'm sitting there thinking about when I was in and how the corporate world that I've been in, corporate media, over the last several decades versus when I was in the military. And Mike makes so much sense right now. Think about how in the corporate world, you're a lot less, and maybe you don't know this, Riley, being younger and only being in the corporate world straight out of college, it's a lot less professional in the corporate world. There's a lot less, how should I put this so I don't get in trouble, even though I don't care about getting in trouble. There's a lot less pushback for people that aren't as mature, professional, and have those hard work ethics in the civilian world than in the military, because by golly, they don't allow it in the military.
Right.
If you walk in and you say to your sarge or commanding officer that day, hey, what's up, bro? Like at work you might do, or hey, what's up, boss man? And bullshit. You're not going to get to do that in the military, because you have to walk in and be like, good morning, Sergeant. How are you doing? What do you have for me today, sir? Great. Or not sir, pardon me. Only to officers. Enlisted get mad at that. You have to be in the private sector. There's no command of that. You don't have to worry about getting written up or in trouble or demoted or have a stripe pulled off your shoulder if you screw something up. But in the military, there is that. And people don't want to, because again, to Mike, what he was saying is you're challenged. You want that challenge. When you're young, then you want to prove it to your commanding officers or your NCOs that you can rise to that occasion and you can meet that challenge. I'm sorry, in the corporate world, I don't feel like you get pushed by your bosses or middle management enough to want to respond that way. Is there incentive, number one? And number two, there just isn't that environment. You know, when you go in and you raise that hand and you put that uniform on because you're taught all these different codes that you have to follow, right? You know you're going to be doing this now for at least 4 years. If you fall in love with it and make it a career like Mike did, and you're doing 20, 25, 30, this will become like breathing to you.
Yeah.
In the private sector, come on.
Well, and I think it's
Come on.
Well, I think it's safe to say one of the sort of tragedy, one of the problems we're facing today is just private sector, schools, just overall life. The bar, just the standards keep getting lowered and lowered.
Great point.
I'll be walking around. It's a Wednesday afternoon, coming out of the office. People are walking around in pajama pants, and it's like who does that on a weekday in civil society? People used to walk around town in suits and dresses and carry themselves respectfully, and it was yes sir and yes ma'am, and it was how are you?
Yeah, you ever notice most veterans? Look at Mike. He's got a tight haircut. I mean, look, there's not a hair out of place on his head.
So it's attitude.
His shirt's
it's
pressed.
Standards. It's the way you carry yourself. So I would just like to see that more.
Yeah. Time I see you got it.
I had to bust his chops.
Better face, buddy.
But
I
I hope
he's going to kick my ass next time I see him.
He might. But no, Mike, I do hope that point resonates.
That's a great point. I mean,
really
come
do
on.
mean that.
You get somebody like a Mike, get a Marine recon guy, get a Navy SEAL, get somebody like that that's a special operator, and then give me a CFO or a VP of marketing for one of these big, huge Fortune 500 companies that went to Brown or Yale or Harvard or some BS. I'll take these guys 100 to 1 over those clowns to run my company, to get me out of a jam, to save me in a foxhole. Whatever it is in life, I would take one of them over 100 of those corporate, highly educated folks any day of the week. So I'm on board. I want him to pitch that one more time. We still got 15, 20 left, and we got more questions for Mike. But one more time. Who are you working for? Name it again. The initiative to get thousands of veterans hired before Veterans Day. Give it to him one more time before we move on here, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name of the company is Overwatch Mission Critical.
Yep.
The website is We Are Overwatch, and the program running from June 6th to November 11th is Anchors for Hope. And again, this is not charity. This is not charity. This is hiring a unflappable, proven workforce that understands teamwork, leadership, discipline, and just overall outcomes. They drive towards outcomes. And so we would love to get every company we can to just join us on this and see what we can do to put a dent in the transition problem. Because guys, there is a transition problem. And you said it, that homecoming and belonging, when a vet gets out, having been part of what I refer to as a tribe,
Yep.
steps into the civilian world and sees that there is no threads of homecoming and belonging.
Yes.
That's hard. And it's hard to translate
It's
the
sad,
skills
too.
to the business world. We can help with that. And we've guys, it's a proven model. All you have to do is train people. You've got to give them clear priorities, what the desired end state is, the outcome you need them to achieve. And then, as Patton said, don't tell people how to do things. Tell them what needs to get done and let them surprise you with your ingenuity. You'll be surprised by this veteran workforce. I promise you.
Oh yeah, because there's nothing more. Look, you give a bunch of veterans a mission. That's what we're missing. That's what we're lacking, right? Like Mike Nine said, when we get out, it's like, where's the mission? What's the next mission?
Yeah.
You know, it might not be kicking a door in and killing Osama bin Laden. It might be getting my spending costs down and better marketing so we can get our numbers up selling widgets. Okay, give me that mission and I will go kick that door down and get it done. A very famous general told me something once, Mike, that stuck with me. It was General Michael Flynn. I was about to do my first sit-down interview with him. And the place that we were interviewing him, the organizers of this event, he was about to give a speech at, and I was giving a speech at. I was doing a twofold. He was speaking, I was speaking, tons of others were speaking. But in between, behind the scenes, I was going to do an interview with him. So the location that the folks set up for me to interview him was like 85 degrees. It was no AC working. It was hot as hell. My camera crew just set up. They're sweating. They're like, Dan, this is not going to work. The general and you are going to look like crap. Well, we all had a schedule, right? Again, this is a 3-star general, right? Mike was a 3. I go to the general. I go, I know you're on a time schedule, General. This is our first meeting. I need a few more minutes because we want to move the location and he cuts me off before I can even tell him what the hell's going on. And again, I didn't set it up. I didn't put us in that hot room. A third party did. You know what the general said? I don't care.
My problems.
I didn't have to tell Mike. Mike knew.
Yeah.
He's like, don't make your problem my problem. Fix it. I'll see you in 5 minutes for the interview.
Wow.
That's what the general told me. Now, that was 4 years ago. I stood on stage with that man a year ago, and he told a crowd of thousands of people, I love this guy. I watch him every night. Trust what he says. He gives you the truth. I'm a fan. We're friends.
Wow.
But 4 years ago, I thought he hated me because he was like, don't make your problem my problem. Fix it. That's what real leaders do, and what being in a unit or a tribe will drive you to do. And what you get taught in that 4 or 40 years, whatever you serve, you will learn stuff that there's no way in Sam Hill you're going to learn on a college campus or working in corporate America. It just don't happen. Mike, let's keep moving on with you. This is a show about you tonight. So, besides where you work now, you've also worked for charities helping vets. You also did something, and this is how I met Mike originally. He did a little crazy thing for a while with this expeditionary unit of a whole bunch of special operators flying around the globe and jumping out of planes. And so that's how I met him, because we were honoring the fallen by doing all these jumps and raising all this money. There's the website, the 777. There's even a documentary film about it. And so, yeah, I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane with this crazy Navy SEAL guy to raise awareness about what he was doing. So, Mike, back up and fill folks in on that and what you did there, because I just always thought that was so cool that you guys did that.
Well, Dan, that was a pretty foolish call, because I think that was like my 3rd skydive as well. So,
He's being a smartass. He's jumped like thousands of times. Whatever.
again, it goes back to challenge, guys. Hey, do I miss the brotherhood? Hell yes. Do I miss adversity? Absolutely. So, there's been this lore, this feat that people have been trying for decades to complete, called the 777 or 777. Can somebody do 7 skydives on all 7 continents within 7 days?
Wow.
So I called some buddies and I said, hey, dude, I'm bored. I need some rally around. As the CEO of my company at the time, I'm like, I need to be around the boys. We need to pick something really freaking hard that no one has done. And quite frankly, people said, hey, this just can't be done. Don't even try. So I convinced them, let's do it. It didn't take all that much convincing. And it took us 18 months to plan, to raise the money, to make sure that we got 900 skydives in amongst the group of 9 of us, and we gave it a shot. And it was a logistical jigsaw puzzle that nobody was able to figure out. And you had some very high net worth individuals who had tried this with their own private plane. We had to fly commercial because we couldn't afford a private plane. And we ended up setting 4 world records by jumping into all 7 continents within 6 days, 6 hours, and 6 minutes. But more importantly, and this was the purpose behind
this
it.
is the key.
We jumped in honor of one of our fallen on each continent. So amongst the 9 of us, one guy would get up and talk about a fallen service member on each continent. And I'm going to tell you, this was right before we get on the plane and jump. And it almost had you in tears every time. And you could see the pain that they just can't put down, which is war. And we're happy to live with it so that others don't. But we raised, I think, in all about $2 million for Folds of Honor, which is an exceptional organization that provides educational scholarships to the families of fallen or disabled service members, particularly their spouses and their children.
Yep.
So
I've been involved with Folds of Honor. My buddy John Rich is involved with them. He gives on every bottle of his whiskey. So I've known about Folds of Honor for a while. So when Mike's team reached out a couple years ago and said, hey, these guys are coming to San Diego to jump. Do you want to jump with these crazy special operators for Folds of Honor? I already knew the charity. I didn't know Mike and his crazy friends. But I was like, yeah, I haven't jumped in a while. Let's jump for charity. Then when you meet these guys, right, and you hang out with them, I mean, these are some of the best American patriots you would ever meet. And to go give up their time to go do something this wild and crazy and come and do it in 6 days and then raise millions for the left behind kids and wives and husbands of the fallen, that's amazing. So I just want to give you props on that. I know the mission's over. You did the 777 back in, you completed it in what? Was it 24 or 23? My years are running together.
In January of 23, but all I'll say is there's another one in the works.
Another one?
I won't give away too much detail, but a good crew of guys.
Okay.
We're looking at going for another few world records by doing something. I do not have the blessing of my wife. This is going to be problematic. I have to convince her to let me go.
I wasn't married when we jumped last time. Now I'm married. I might have to ask for permission this time.
Hey, every great man always has to include the other decision maker who sometimes owns 51% of that decision. So we've got work to do there. I have no doubt we're going to figure it out. But this January, we may be given another attempt.
All right.
7-continent expedition.
Where do you think you'll jump on this particular continent? Would it be in Southern California?
There will be no jumping. Let's just say it's a different challenge.
Interesting.
Now I'm gonna pick his brain offline. I can keep a secret, Mike. We'll talk.
Okay.
All right. So we got the job at hand, helping vets get jobs. We've got the charity wing of jumping out. I got to get Mike's take now on the current state of our military. We touched on these recruiting numbers. We got a new SecDef. We got a new commander-in-chief. Trump just made a comment, I think today or yesterday, from the Oval Office about the recruiting numbers exceeding. It's so amazing to see these changes. Pete has done a lot of stuff. We're not now paying any more of our taxpayer money to do transitional surgeries for people in the military that want to switch their gender, which you can't do. We're getting rid of all the woke DEI classroom BS, and we're just training warriors so that we can lead through strength, but not have to go to war. That's the whole point, right, Mike? If we have such a lethal force, Reagan got this and Trump gets it. If the force is so dang lethal that no enemy would dare come against us, then we don't have to get into another 21-year war like in Afghanistan, right, Mike?
Ultimately, as a military service member, we used to say, and we've got to train this into the young generation to understand it. As a soldier, in the profession of arms, you are trained in the profession of peace, though trained in the art of war. Yeah. And so peace through strength is to be such a scary adversary that nobody would dare step against us. But beyond training our warfighters and focusing them on lethality, there's also the logistical or technical acquisition piece to this. And we're seeing warfare change in front of us, guys. 5GW, 5th generation warfare, and we just saw it with Operation Spiderweb, the massive attack Ukraine just pulled off. Warfare has fundamentally transformed. Is it going to replace the man on the ground? Absolutely not. But it is changing warfare. And what the challenge for Pete and DoD is a rapid acquisitions process working with the tech sector. That's where the private sector and the military are fundamentally linked. is the technology we need is coming out of the civilian workforce, and even the drone capacity. We need to elevate our drone manufacturing to a rate that exceeds China, because it is changing the landscape of warfare. And who would have ever thought that warfare would look less like Call of Duty and more like Uber Eats or DoorDash for destruction?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And you know what, Mike? I was just talking about this last night with somebody about drones. And I'll go back to this, and I don't want to harp on it because we're going to be out of time, and I got to get some more personal stuff with Mike on camera here. 2 years ago, a couple sheriffs that went to the federal national meeting of all sheriffs, county sheriffs with the FBI, were told that future terror attacks, small or large scale, most likely will come in the fashion of drone attacks. And the FBI, this was under the Biden regime even, they told all county sheriffs to be on the lookout up for drones. You see then what happens with the paragliders on October 7th flying in, right? Hamas with Israel, and then Ukraine with that. This is the new warfare. And us Americans, since we just let 15 million illegals in and thousands, if not millions of them don't like the American way, right? Anybody can buy a drone at Best Buy. Y'all better be watching the skies, keeping your head on a friggin' swivel, and watching each other's six, because this is how the next attack could come on the homeland. Forget warfare overseas for our warriors like Mike. I'm talking about innocent civilians on the homeland getting killed by drone attacks. So that's that. We'll leave it there because we're already pushing almost an hour. And I got to congratulate Mikey and get some more personal stuff in here from Mr. Cerelli.
It's a shame. I wish we had way more time.
I know. We need 2 or 3 hours for these. Well, this is why we do 2 of these a week now, right? We've got Matt's doing one on the night before ours, and then you and I are doing this one. We might add one with some of the ladies here from OAN, and I think we should extend to more hours. Anyway, Mike, personal stuff. Beautiful wife, beautiful baby. Congratulations. How's that going, big guy?
Things I did not think would happen to me at the age of 47. Riley, we have an 8-month-old daughter. She's gorgeous. First time I witnessed a birth. I've got 2 other children who I love, 21-year-old in vet tech school. She's doing well. And then my son, 17, who's finishing up high school. It's, you know what, having a child at a later age, I think you're blessed with more wisdom, more maturity, perspective, and extremely thankful that she's doing well. She's safe. But to your point, Dan, on the future attacks, we need to exist in a hyper state of security. And it's not the next 9/11, though it's not to say that our infrastructure is not exposed, but they'll choose softer targets, easier targets, like taking out the Secretary of the Navy or other leaders within our nation. So this actually can be a very positive thing to get people to understand that we're not as safe as we thought we were in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. Yes. We need to be in a hyper state of security. We need to be vigilant. And this is why we need to support our police force and our government agencies who are there to protect us. So, with the good or with the bad can come the good, and aid in our perspective as a nation that the world is not as safe as it was decades ago.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate truth, but we need to be paying attention. Mike Sarraille, United States Navy SEAL. I learned something tonight. Former recon in the Marine Corps. Did not know he was a jarhead and a Marine sniper. So I learned that. I think I knew you were a 47-year-old new dad. I follow you, duh. Anything else we should know about Mike Sarraille before we lose you? We talked about, we got a new expedition coming out that's going to be wild and bigger and crazier than jumping out of planes on 7 continents. You're doing amazing work with your company trying to get veterans jobs. I love that. You're helping charities. You're busy changing poopy diapers. What else in the last minute or two with Mike Sarraille? This is your pitch moment. Whatever else you want to push for veterans, for your charities you help out, hit it, Mike.
Well, you're absolutely right. Right after this, my wife said, you get out of that room and you make that. We've just got a baby bed, which I've got to put together. No, guys, I'll wrap it up this way. Nothing that I want to push. Humbled that you had me on. You made me sound a lot more interesting than I am. I appreciate that. My service, I was proud to do it. It was my calling. Did I do anything more special than anyone else? No, I'm another grain of sand in the long line of soldiers. But I could sit on a podcast for days and talk about the men and women that I served with and the strength of the pack, or the strength of the individuals in the pack. I am nothing without the men to my left and right. And to all the vets, thank you. The generations that came before us and laid the path for us to be successful. The generation I served with, the generation now serving, protecting us. And all I would say to veterans is, hey, run for office, start companies, find a way to serve outside the uniform.
There you go.
Because you've got the leadership that this nation needs. We need you to step up, and we actually need you to do more.
There we go.
Wow. Yeah.
There we go. Navy SEAL Mike Sarraille, thank you for coming on. Wise words. You have served this nation honorably, sir, and you continue to serve it now in the civilian world. Best to you and the wife and the new kiddo. God bless you, brother. Thanks for coming on, Mike. Nice chat. Really appreciate it.
Riley, thank you.
Yep. Cool guy, right?
Yeah, just
Told you.
you can just sense that he's a thoroughly decent man, truly. And it's very humbling to hear his perspective about life and just service. And that's the thing I would like to take away in my own life is stop. And to your point earlier about selfishness in this generation, this is a plea to myself and to my fellow peers. Stop thinking so much about the world revolving around you. Think about serving. Think about acts of kindness. Think about what you can contribute to your country.
Ask not what you can do.
Yes. It's a timeless...
Not to be cheesy, but...
Well, it sounds cheesy and trite, but it's profoundly true.
Yes,
it's maybe the best thing
it was
he
back
ever
then.
said.
It is today.
Amen. Completely. So that's what I'm trying to get better at is every day find something to contribute to my fellow citizens to make this place better, to protect it.
You know, I haven't met a Navy SEAL yet, and I know a handful now, thanks to this job, working at OAN, that isn't like Mike. You don't get to that level. You're not a highly trained special operator where you can handle missions like Navy SEALs do, Marine Recon, Green Beret, Air Force Pararescue, like we talked about at the beginning of this podcast. You don't get to that level of operator, as they call themselves, unless you have all of the disciplines Mike talked about tonight.
Yes.
You got to have all of them.
Yes.
And then what a human being that creates after you go through that training and then you're part of that unit, or as Mike said, that tribe. I would want that guy being my boss at work.
Completely.
Right? Or my coworker.
Completely.
Because that guy or gal knows how to get it done.
Completely.
And put the mission before themselves.
Yes.
That's the key. And I don't care if you're talking about a war, you're talking about teaching third graders, you're talking about making widgets, whatever you're talking about, okay? Those are the qualities in a human being, in an employee, in a partner, in a whatever you want. So, as Mike said, hire those veterans. I love that his company's doing that initiative now through Veterans Day, November 11th. And this interview couldn't have been more fitting. I mean, we booked him a week ago, last week, right? And didn't know all this stuff we're going to be talking about. The new numbers came out. So everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Right, big guy?
It does, and be grateful for all of it. I'm eternally grateful for that.
We're over an hour. They're going to wrap us up, Riley.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you all, by the way.
I was going to cheers you, but I ran out of... Today was one of those days where, man, this just went down real smooth.
Yeah.
You weren't sipping, and I was doing all the sipping tonight.
I was mesmerized by that. There was no time.
Well, I feel like when I get a fellow vet on and we can sit around and BS, I want a cocktail. Just because you're flowing. Now it's time for our shameless self-plugs as we say goodnight to you. But I will give Mike another one. Look up what Mike does with his unit, because getting those veterans jobs is going to be amazing. Keep an eye out for his expedition thing. I don't know what it is. That's honest. This ain't TV. I wasn't acting. I don't know what they're going to do this year, but I can't wait to see what they do. I hope he involves me. And Folds of Honor is a great charity as well. Check out the OAN lineup. Here's the plug. Riley Lewis, 6 p.m. Eastern. Dan Balzon with Real America, 8 p.m. Matt Gates, 9 p.m. Chanel Rion, 10 p.m. What else? Log on to the website, OANN. You got to get 2 N's in there, OneAmericanNewsNetwork.com. If you don't have Sling TV or Dish or Spectrum, all the new carriers that now are carrying OAN as of 2025, you can always buy and download the app. It's like $4.
Yes.
If you want to get more than one channel, we also own a little app called KlowdTV too. KLOWD. You can get the KlowdTV app for $4 or $5. It gives you like 50, 60 channels.
Yes.
So there's multiple ways to watch OAN. Check out the lineup in prime time. Of course, we have the news, live, early in the morning, midday, afternoon, weekends. We also own a little network called AWE, A Wealth of Entertainment. That's on all the providers. Some fun shows on there. My show, Hungry Heroes, is on there as well. Riley, self-shameless plug thing. What do you got?
Well, absolutely. And check us out, by the way, on social media. We're on Truth, we're on X, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram.
Rumble.
Lots of ways to stay connected. YouTube, Rumble, absolutely. So this is a family, what we've got here. And we're a part of a movement. And just to tie it all together, mission-driven. We're all on a mission here. Every single talk show host, every news anchor, every producer, every editor, everybody here, they come here because they buy into the mission. It's
this isn't CNN. We're not cashing a paycheck and we're going to read the teleprompter. Everybody, I would hope 99.9% of the folks here are in the America First movement, and that's why they're at OAN, because some of us, I don't know about you, but some of us could have gone elsewhere and made a little more green and chose not to because we thought we'd be stifled and censored.
Yes, it's bigger than a 9 to 5. It's bigger than just a paycheck. What we're doing here it's really profound. I firmly believe in that, and I'm grateful to even be a part of it. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for guests like Mike that come on the show and just, chat with us about this stuff. This is a pivotal moment in American history right now.
It is.
I am extremely grateful to be a part
of it. And I love
that
we have this podcast to do this longer format than our 52-minute talk shows where we get 4 or 5 guests and we only get 5 to 10 minutes with them. This is great to highlight people and what they do and what Mike Sarraille and what other special operators and all vets have done for our nation. Yes. We can never say, as we wrap things up, we can never, ever say these simple words enough. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your service to our nation, for fighting these enemies, foreign and domestic, for 250 years to keep this constitutional republic, I'll end where we began, to keep this constitutional republic free for we the people. Thank you to the Mike Sarrailles and all the veterans of this great nation. God bless you. We're back next week. These drop every Friday, 7 p.m. On, I think, YouTube and Rumble, and then social media clips have links. I have no idea who next week's guest will be. Any ideas what we should do, Riley?
I don't know, but I want to hear from you guys. So if you have ideas, recommendations, let us know in the comments, call into the shows. Otherwise, you'll have to tune in because it'll just be a surprise.
That's a great idea.
It's always somebody good, by the way.
So if you see somebody online, maybe it's an influencer, a celebrity, a politician, whatever, that you see on Riley and I's show or wherever that we may know, especially it helps, tell us that. Put it in the comments, and we'll try and get them booked. I got to think there's somebody that you want to learn more about than the 5 minutes we get with them to talk about policy or their new album or their new movie or whatever. Here you get a whole hour with them. Yeah, great call. Riley Lewis, thank you, brother. Thank you for your service here at OAN. Cheers to another great Anchormen podcast.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next Friday night. God bless.
Want to see more great videos like this? Click on the link below to subscribe to OAN Live and watch Dan Ball's Real America and The Matt Gaetz Show on Dish Channel 212. Tune in, subscribe, and watch today.